So you first start with what you call animal genetics. And when we talk of animal genetics, I hope you all know. Yeah? You all know the semen that we have. Nowadays we have a lot of semen in the region. We have the local semen, that is the ADC and the CAGRIC, so you know. And nowadays they have improved. We cannot say it's local. It's just the name. They are just produced locally, but they have improved. Sindio? And then we have the imported semen, the worldwide. We have the CRI, that's Chinex from Atlantis. Nowadays we have a new breed from Brazil known as Chirolando. Have you heard of that? Chirolando? You've heard of Chirolando? Yes. So those are now the breeds that we can say, in as much as we want to push this cow to produce, at least you first have a good genetics from a good reputable source. So those are the genetics I just wanted to mention, so that as we even try to feed our cows to produce, we know the genetics of the genetic makeups of our animals. So having said that, remember we are talking of feeds. We are talking of feeds. And for feeds to be available for the cow, they must be observed. Sindio? The feeds should be converted to nutrients, then nutrients to the bloodstream, and then to the production. Sinukweli. So that the whole factory setup is culminated here in the rumen. So the full stomach of a ruminant is where we have all the digestion, the absorption, and even the assimilation and the use of nutrients. So this is actually the rumen, or the rumen, or the full stomach of a ruminant. So this is a ruminant stomach. We all know when we say it's an animal is a ruminant, of course it must have the four chambers. The four chambers. That is the rumen, reticulum. We have the omasum and apomesum. The four. But we know that for an Eva or for a calf, a newborn calf, does it have four chambers? No. Yeah? We normally consider it as an non-ruminant at that stage because it only has one underdeveloped rumen. Sinivo. So we are saying for a mature cow, it must have the four chambers shown here. So we have the rumen, of course. That is after the esophagus. And then we have the rumen. And then we have the reticulum after the rumen. We have the omasum and we have the abomasum. And I hope you all know the anatomical or the morphology of all the structure. For the rumen, we know how it is. Sindio? Inakaa kama blanketi or a towel because of the rumen, the papillae, the finger-like projection. And then for reticulum, this one is always like a velvet, like a honeycomb. Honeycomb. Ile nini asali. Yeah? You know how it is, ndio? The hexagonal structure. Huh? It has some corners. So this one for the reticulum. And then we have the omasum, like a velvet. And then we have the abomasum, that's like a book. Folded pages of a book. So this is the anatomical structure of a ruminant stomach. And this is where we will center our discussion much because we are talking of feed conversion, how to use feeds to improve the milk production. So we will center our discussion so much here. No, now having said that, I was saying for a calf, that is how a 10 days old calf rumen is. So you can see. Sindio? Does it have the rumen papillae? No. Sindio? And we know for a rumen to be functional, it must have two very important factors. One is the rumen papillae. For it to be functional, it must have the rumen papillae. Number two, the rumen should have what we call rumen microflora. The bacteria, the normal. Sio ile ya kukosa, not the ile inakosa maugonjwa. We have the normal microflora, sindio? That helps in digestion. So the presence of the two, the anatomical finger-like projection, and the presence of the rumen papillae, and the presence of the rumen microflora, will now help in what we call a cut fermentation, or the digestion of the feeds in the rumen. But now, here is a scenario where we have a 10 days calf without rumen papillae. What does it tell us? It tells us then that for calves, they don't utilize solid feeds so much, unlike the adult animal. Are you getting what I'm saying? So for this case, this is a rumen over calf. It doesn't have the rumen papillae. But it's very smooth. Now, there is what we call suckling reflex. If you still remember those things. The suckling reflex. Wakati ndama ameona mama yake, what normally happens? There will be what we there is what we call the esophageal groove. The esophageal groove. I'm sorry. Let's go back here. So, for calves, we have what we call esophageal groove. The esophageal groove is connecting the esophagus to the apomesum, which is the true stomach, of a calf. So when there is a suckling reflex, wakati ndama ananyonya, if I may use, wakati ndama ananyonya, there is that esophageal groove which will open. And when it opens, then it means it will bypass the milk. The milk will bypass the rumen, the omasum, apomesum, and the reticulum directly to the apomesum for absorption. I don't know whether I'm clear kidogo. Nasema kwa ndama chuana ile rumen ile ya kudigest chakula. Yeah? What they use is what we call esophageal groove. The esophageal groove will bypass the milk from directly. So unajua amenyonya inaenda to esophagus, ndio? Ikienda esophagus, because of the suckling reflex, the esophageal groove will open, and then it will shunt the milk to bypass through the rumen, omasum and apomesum to apomesum directly for absorption. Because there is no digestion anyway. This is milk, pure milk. And because there is no digestion, it enter directly to apomesum for what? Absorption. So basically that is what we are saying. So remember, I'll take some time here because you know, we want to even that calf at some point we wanted to produce sindio, and you know we want to prepare this calf so that it matures and produce as early as possible. So what we are saying is for this rumen now to develop, we must have something to help this calf to develop as fast as possible, because we know a calf will depend on milk for only 3 months. The rest of the months itakuwa nini? Solid feeds after weaning. That is maybe after 6 months. But before then, it depends entirely on milk. So that means we need to prepare this rumen to develop as fast as possible. Wangapi hapa wameona kuna wale ndama after 3 months wanakuwa matachiri? Sio kama tunaelewana. Wanakuwa matachiri in the sense that wanakuwa na tumbo nini? Yes, wanakuwa na tumbo kubwa. And what farmers do and vets do, wanakimbilia nini? Dawa gani? Ya minyo. Do you know that 80% of that issue si minyo? So you are just curing the 20%. Huyo ndama hata saa zile unatembea nayo unasikia kama kuna maji ndani, unasikia lukluk. Si ni kweli? Mumesikia minyoo inafanya hivyo? What does it tell us? It means that huyo ndama alianza kukula solid feeds mapema. And because ameanza kukula solid feeds mapema, the solid feeds will go to the rumen, which is underdeveloped. And because it is underdeveloped, it doesn't have the rumen papillae, it doesn't have enough rumen bacteria. So what will happen? There will be what we call the digestion. The digestion will be impaired, and therefore the nutrients will not be absorbed. And because it will not be absorbed, hiyo chakula itakanda tu kwa tumbo, inakaa tu kwa tumbo. And because inakaa tu haikuwa digested, inakuwa machi with time. So hiyo tumbo mnaonanga sana ni chakula haichakuwa digested. Si minyoo. So tusikimbilie kwanza minyoo. The primary cause is mambo na nini? Feed conversion. Are you getting? So that means for calves, we need to prepare this stomach as early as possible by providing something that will boost the growth of rumen papillae, and also that will boost the population of rumen bacteria. The two. When you have the two in place, your cow is as good as giving you that milk. Sawa sawa. So that is now where this thing, mnaona hapa kona inakuja. We have something called campus, but I'll still come back to it. But now, this is actually a tablet with billions of bacteria, and some other factors that will help in growing the rumen papillae. So we'll see that in the later stage. So I just wanted to talk to explain on this because I really wanted you to get that term. Esophageal what? Groove. Najua tumesema tunataka kutoka hapa kama umepata kitu. Hakikisha hata kama hujapata kitu, enda na nini? The esophageal what? Groove kwa ndama. So that we now get to the bottom line that we need to develop this rumen for feed conversion, for feed conversion and nutrient absorption, iende maziwa, tupate maziwa. That is what basically I'm trying to say. So having said that, we are as an introduction here, we know that when a cow feed, what a cow normally does is, kama ni free range, anaikula kwanza, anaiweka kwa store kwanza, non-stop, maybe for 3 to 4 hours. When it is full, anaenda mahali, anaanza sasa kufanya nini? The rumination, the reverse peristalsis. You remember? The reverse. Because now the cow will have ingested enough, and then it will now regurgitate for remastication, and then now digestion. So basically, what we are saying is the structure that we want to dwell on is this rumen. So feed undergoes microbial fermentation. I talked of the microbes in the stomach. So feeds undergo what we call microbial fermentation in the first stomach. That is what we call rumen. And we've seen now the rumen function. Now, the rumen development is largely measured. I think you cannot, the parameters that you use to measure the development of a rumen are only two. This one, the rumen papillae, and rumen, the rumen, what we call the rumen muscle mass. So we've said the rumen papillae is the finger-like projection. Sawa sawa. Finger-like projection, the finger-like projections that protrude from the interior of the rumen wall to increase the surface area for rumen to create a nutrient absorption. So basically, the function of the rumen papillae is to do what we call the nutrient absorption. Now, we were talking of calves and this thing, the rumen absorption. what normally happens is the proteins, remember the colostrum. We all know the colostrum, sindio? Colostrum is the yellow milk. And what makes the colostrum yellow is because of the beta-carotene in it, sindio? The beta-carotene is a form of vitamin A, which is responsible for the immunity in calves, the resistance to diseases, sindio? Now, remember, the same thing, because now the rumen of a calf is underdeveloped and it doesn't have the rumen papillae, it means that it can absorb the larger molecules like the immunoglobulins, the proteins, immunoglobulins that are responsible for immunity. There is what we call the cut closure between day 0 and day 7 kuandama, because now haina finger like projection. It means it can select. It will not select what will be absorbed and what will not be absorbed. So the larger molecule will pass through. Are we getting? But now, as the time goes by, the enterocytes, or rather the absorptive cells of the small intestine, will mature. And as it matures, it closes. Ni kama inanenepa, the absorptive cells. So ikinenepa, it means it closes that cap. And therefore, the larger molecules will not be absorbed. That is why we normally say, for a calf, let it get in as enough colostrum as possible within 4 days. Because bado, tumbo yake I select what it will be absorbed. And remember, the globulins are larger molecules. And therefore, it will pass. Iende kwa bloodstream, iende nini. So the more the globulin absorb, the more the resistant to diseases. Are you getting? So that's what we call cut closure. So for rumen, we're talking of the papillae. The rumen with bacteria, that will rumen. I don't know what's cutting this thing. So rumen with bacteria that will aid in fermentation of its stuff entering the rumen, maintaining normal fermentation. So hiyo ni chorus ya training Tumesikia tuko climax sasa. So maintaining normal fermentation and mobility of the foie stomach is critical to health and productivity of ruminants. Now, remember what we call the rumen mobility. Lazima pia rumen kukue na ile kitu inaitwa rumen what? Mobility. That is why unaonanga tumbo ya ng'ombe unafaa kuhesabu the rumen mobility, because that will also help you to do what we call the digestibility analysis of it. Digestibility analysis of it. Sometimes si lazima upeleke lab feeds ile ng'ombe yako inakula, unaweza fanya nyumbani. You can unaweza hesabu the rumen mobility. Ukiona inaenda mingi, inamaanisha ng'ombe anang'ang'ana sana kushaga, and that means the digestibility is very low. Sinivo. Ukiona ng'ombe tena that's what we were talking of, the reverse peristalsis and rumination. Ng'ombe anafaa kushaga mara ngapi ndio amese? Nataka ukienda nyumbani wakati ng'ombe anapumzika, wakati analala chini, unaona anairudisha alafu anaitafuna. Sinivo. Ukihesabu within a minute, a normal mastication and all that will be around 45, should be from 45 to 50. Ikienda 60, ujue hiyo chakula ni ngumu sana. Maybe iko na a lot of cellulose, which is hard to digest. So that means kama ng'ombe anang'ang'ana sana na hiyo chakula, inamaanisha hata hiyo chakula haitatoa masi. Are you getting what I'm saying? That is what you can use to catch the digestibility of it. So it's important to note that rumen during close-up phase should be stimulated with high energy diet called campus. I think this one is what I talked about. This is now the solution. We are now bringing a solution to the problem. The problem is we have underdeveloped what? Rumen. And when we say it's underdeveloped, it means it has less papillae and it has less bacteria. So how do we improve this thing? They are the two. You improve by supplementing a cow with what we call campus, which has billions of bacteria in it. For those of us, wakati tunakunywa chai, I'll show you some samples of the campus, because it's a tablet yenye kuna bacteria mingi, so that ng'ombe akimeza hiyo bacteria inaenda kukua alive kwa tumbo ya ng'ombe, and then inasaidia kufanya nini? Digestion. And it also has some elements of ni kama fertilizer. Itaenda kufanya hiyo the finger like projection. Rumen papillae inafanya nini? Ina grow. Are you getting? So we have to stimulate the rumen papillae to elongate and also increase in number, and also to mature by keratinization. And then rumen microflora, this one we've talked about, the rumen population. Rumen microflora population changes and propagation must occur as cow will receive high energy ratio after calving. Now, tunaingia sasa kwa chakula. You know, we were talking of preliminaries, and because we wanted to prepare a cow to be ready for feeds that we are going to provide, so that at the end of the day, these feeds that we are providing will go directly into milk production. We want as many feeds as possible to be absorbed into the bloodstream for milk production. Hatutaki chakula mingi inaenda waste. Tunataka mingi ikuwe nini, inakuwa converted to nutrients and then to what? Production of milk. So it's important for us to note that these are very essential nutrients in as much as we do our normal feed ratio. You should put into your mind that as you do feed ratio, these are the nutrients that you should have in your mind. So first of all, we start with something which is very important to animals that live to us. That is what we call water. Ng'ombe yako akikula aje na asikunywe maji hata kupea maziwa. We must agree. We are talking of feeds to improve milk production. So even if you provide enough feed and you don't provide enough quality, and when we say quality, we mean clean water. So even if you do all that and you don't provide water, that cow will not produce. Yule ng'ombe anakunywa maji mingi ndiye anatoanga maziwa mingi. Si ni ukweli? That means for nutrients, for this case, water is very essential. Water is very essential. You should also have in your mind that as you do a feed ratio, haifai kukosa protein. Never. Because even from the bottom line, we know milk is made up of 80% protein. Sinukweli. So as you do your feed ratio, as you provide feeds, have in your mind that you should have what we call proteins in your feeds. So we have proteins and amino acids. Of course, amino acids are the building units of what? Of protein. And then you should also have in your mind that for a cow to produce, it must have enough energy. Lazima kuwe na nguvu ya kukupea maziwa. Without that, milk production will go down. And therefore, you should provide carbohydrate, which are the source of energy to that cow. Are you getting that? And then we have also fats, mafuta. This also will help when it comes to what we call milk quality, because a cow with butter fat content of less than 3 will alter the quality of what? Milk. So we also have minerals. These are the micro elements. Actually, they are metal elements which must be provided for a cow to give us sufficient milk. And for this case, you know the essential elements that we should provide. That is calcium and phosphorus for milk production. Of course, we have other the micro elements we shall still see. We have also vitamins. We also have vitamins. We have what we call water soluble, and for vitamin we have we have a lot of vitamins. We have vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, which are lipid soluble, and then we also have water soluble. And then we have so having this in your mind, then you will be able to do a good feed ratio for your cow. So this is basically what you should have in your mind. Now, let's have a glance of each. So we are saying water is the second only to oxygen as the most important element of life. After oxygen, the maji. So this implies, or this tells us that water is very important. Water is very important for any surviving being. So milk is 80%, or it should be more than that. It should be 87% water, and is critical for milk production. Milk is made of more than 80% water. It comprises of 87% water. So ni kama maziwa ni maji tu, because sasa kama 87% ni maji, 13% ni vitu ingine tu ya kuongezea, si ndio? So that means water is very important, because we know if water is comprising of 87%, we must provide enough of this one at least. And then water makes up between, that one is, okay, water makes up between 56 and 81% of total body weight. Total body weight. That is why there is what we call, wakati unauza ng'ombe, there is what we call live weight and the carcass weight. Sinukweli? Because when you slaughter a cow, when that cow dies, it will lose weight automatic. Na si eti kwamba umechukua liver mahali, ati umechukua kidney mahali. Yani the moment unaua hiyo ng'ombe, maybe from 650 kilos live weight, utapata ukikuja kupima nyama, inakuja ngapi? Inakuanga around 60%. So unapata kama ilikuwa 650 akiwa uhai na hakuna kitu umetoa, the moment unaenda sasa kupima the carcass weight, unapata iko around 400. Sasa 250 imeenda wapi? Sinamaanisha ni liquid, ile the liquid part of the body. So we are being told it's liquid is the water is makes between 56 to 81% of total weight, and between 68 to 72% in pre-ruminant calf. Hiyo ni kwa ndama. Ndama anakuanga na maji mingi kushinda the mama, because as it grows, the mass inakuwa mingi. So water is essential for transport. Now we are saying water is very important, yes, for milk production. But remember, it also has other important usage. So water is very essential. In one, it helps in transport of the nutrients now from point A to the last point where it will be absorbed. So it helps in transportation of these nutrients, which are very important in our body. Number two, also it helps in thermoregulation. Wakati kuna jua mingi, kitu mwili inahitaji ni nini sana? Ni maji, si ndio? So even for that cow, it's very important. It's very important, especially wakati wa kiangazi kama hii. So maji ni very important for thermoregulation. And also we have the insulation and also removal of waste. Ng'ombe mwenye akunywi maji ni ngumu sana kutoa samadi. Na akitoa inakuanga very dry. That means huyo ng'ombe akona shida ya tumbo. So kama akona shida ya tumbo, it means even the feed conversion, even if you have failed feeds, feeds will only be like filler materials. Lakini ile itaingia kwa damu for absorption and all that will be very limited. So water is very important for removal of what? Of waste. And then water is essential for rumen. Okay, we were talking of rumen. For the bacteria to function normally, we should provide water. So water is essential for rumen microbial development in the pre-ruminant calf, and ultimately critical in the conversion of calf from non-ruminant to ruminant. So from the transition, that is development of rumen by calves, water is very important. Now the sources of water, we have one. We have what we call free water. Ile maji tu iko available. We have free water, that is drinking water. We make this water available for drinking. That is one source. And I think almost 90% of the sources of water that our animals get is through drinking of this free water. And also the metabolic water. When we talk of metabolic water, inamaanisha ila anapata kwa chakula. When you provide green feeds, of course, the animal will also get water. That is why unapata akienda kwa shamba, akule ile nini mingi, the succulent feeds, utapata ng'ombe anaanza kuara, si ndio? Because amekula chakula iko na maji mingi. So that can also be a source of water for that animal. And then we have proteins. Remember, proteins are made up of, the building units of proteins are what? Amino acids. Sindio? So proteins are very important, and we should provide in feeds. So the availability of proteins in feeds is measured by the crude protein in the feeds, the CP. So mnasikianga sijui pakchong iko na crude protein ya 60 to 70%, sijui which grass iko na this crude protein, sindio? So we are talking of the availability of proteins. So the proteins are available and in two forms. The crude protein are available in two forms. We have the RUP, that is the rumen and the decretable proteins, and what we call the RDP, that is the rumen the decretable proteins. So what do we mean? When we say RUP or rumen and decretable, that means these are the proteins which do not pass through the rumen for digestion. It goes directly to the small intestine. So it bypasses the rumen. It bypasses the rumen for digestion. So I beat the rumen. That's why we call it undecretable. And then we have now the rumen decretable protein. These are the proteins which must pass through the rumen for digestion. We have amino acids. We've said amino acids are the building units of what? Protein. So the higher hapa, remember we have over 50 amino acids. Sinivo, over 50. But now, we have only 2, which are very important for milk production. Only 2. We have what we call lysine and methionine. These are very important. We have lysine and methionine. And then there's another one called histidine. But then, that one is not as important as the 2. So ukiona mtu anasema wacha nimpe ng'ombe wangu soya bean, wacha nimpe canola, wacha nimpe cotton seed cake, you know the sources of proteins, ndio? They are looking for these 2 only, lysine and methionine. So we make these amino acids available for the cow when we provide this, when we provide nutrients. But remember, not all products, not all feeds have the 2 combined. You'll find that one feed doesn't have another. So you'll find like corn, mahindi. So unajua mahindi inakuwa available for cow kama ni silage or whole grain. Ile inashakwa inakuwa maize what? Is it maize bran or maize chaff? So corn is made available to cow either as a silage or as a whole grain. But now, this corn got only lysine. Iko na moja inaitwa lysine. Haina nini? Haina methionine, which is very important. At the same time, soya is deficient of methionine, but iko na lysine. So, that means when you are doing a feed ratio, you must combine maize what? Maize germ and soya bean, so that you now have a complete protein ratio. Sijui kama tunaelewana, because ukipea tu ng'ombe mahindi peke yake, ile iko mbichi, siko na protein, lakini iko na protein moja inaitwa methionine, but haina lysine. And then soya, ukisema wacha nipe huyu ng'ombe wangu tu soya peke yake, utapata huyo ng'ombe anakula tu methionine, lakini it will be deficient of what? Lysine. So that means these 2 are co-limiting. When we say co-limiting, it means when you provide one nutrient, the other protein will be limiting. Haitakuwa kwa chakula. So basically what we are saying is, for a complete meat protein ratio, you should have the two combined, the corn and silage, so that you have a complete ratio. So, for grass, the Napier grass, the Boma road, we talk of all those grass, the oat grass, we have the Lucerne and all that. They are rich in both lysine and methionine. Iko na yote mbili. But sasa aina hii histidine. Histidine is very important for immunity. So these are now the amino acids that that should be available for the cow. Carbohydrates. Now, this is now where we have a lot of challenges, because carbohydrate ikikuwa chini, ng'ombe analala chini. Si ni ukweli? Ikikuwa mingi tena, ng'ombe anapata cases ya lactic acidosis and laminitis. So that means this is very critical. This is very critical. We have talked of amino, we have talked of protein and water. But now, if you have all that and you don't have carbohydrates in your feed, milk production itaenda chini. So proteins, carbohydrates are the largest component of any feed ratio. The largest component of any feed ratio is carbohydrate. That makes up to 70 to 75%. So ukileta chakula kwa kunia ile imechanganywa kama pembe, kama gani, utapata ukienda kufanya feed analysis, 70% of that feed, kama ni kunia ya 100 kilos, tuseme kunia ya 100 kilos, itamaanisha 70 kilos kwa hiyo kunia ni carbohydrate. Carbohydrate inaweza kuwa mahindi, inaweza kuwa wheat bran, vitu kama hizo. So you'll find that this 70% of that is what? Of that feed is carbohydrate. And then the remaining 30% itakawanywa sasa na zile zingine. Protein will take around 20% or 20 to 25. We'll have minerals, chumvi. Kwa 100 kilos, lazima chumvi kilo 2 ikuwa hapo. Najaribu sasa kuwafanyia ile inaitwa nini? Kwa ukienda kutengeneza chakula yako na una mixer, sasa ile una mixer, you can do that. Unaweza tumia hiyo hii yetu tumefanya hapa. Uende utoe 70 kilos ya carbohydrate, ukuje na 20 kilos ya protein. 8 soya, 8 cotton seed cake, canola and all that. And then the remaining 20%, kutakuwa na chumvi hapo around 2 kilos to 3 kilos. Na kama ni ya maziwa, mnajua chumvi ya maziwa, si ndio? And then we will have now the remaining percentage. We have now the vitamins and the filler materials. Kuna vitu inaitwa filler materials tu ya kuchaza tumbo na kusaidia the bacteria to what? To populate. Kuna kitu inaitwa the filler materials. So that is it. Now, so the two most common. Now, as you provide this carbohydrate, ukipeana hiyo mahindi, ukipeana hiyo wheat, ujue ya kwamba there are two important carbohydrates. Kwa amino acids tulisema mbili, lysine and methionine. For carbohydrates, we have cellulose and starch. We have cellulose and what? Starch. For cellulose, hatutaki kuprovide mingi sana. The reason being, for cellulose, it's always hard to digest. Inakuanga ngumu kudigest because of the CHO bond. Remember the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen bond. That builds up the cellulose molecule is very hard to break. And therefore, if you provide a lot of cellulose to your cow, it means that your cow will have issues of indigestion because cellulose is very hard to break. And then starch. Starch can be easily broken down to provide energy. So we have cellulose and starch. So the two most common carbohydrates used in feeding dairy cattle, as with other ruminants, are cellulose. So I've talked about cellulose, and we've said that cellulose, which are beta 1 and 4 linked glucose units, whereas starch is comprised of 1, 2, 4 amylase. So those are the two carbohydrates. So cellulose is much more resistant to digestion. Na nime-explain. Nimesema mbona inakuwa ngumu kuwa digested? Because of the what? The bond, the bonds, ndio? The carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, the CHO bond. So it is more resistant to digest than starch. And therefore, the primary difference is the type of bonds between the glucose units. Now, the microbial fermentation. Now, when a carbohydrate is ingested, wakati ng'ombe amekula a lot of carbohydrate, there's what we call a microbial fermentation. So when a starch or when a cellulose, or rather when a carbohydrate is digested, it is broken down by the rumen bacteria. It is broken down, and then what do you get after breaking down a carbohydrate? There are what we call volatile fatty acids. I want you to note, wakati ng'ombe amekula mahindi mingi, sisi ni fats, si ndio? Wakati ng'ombe amekula mahindi mingi, ni nini huwa inafanyika? Tuseme kuna mahindi ilikuwa imefunwa mahali, alafu ng'ombe wakaingia ndani. Which cases do we normally have? Yeah? We have bloat, ndio? Because of the production of gases, we have what? Acidosis, ndio? And acidosis will lead to what? Laminitis. Sinivo. Now, when carbohydrate is broken down, carbohydrate is broken down to produce what we call volatile fatty acids. Now, the volatile fatty acids, we have three. When a carbohydrate is broken down, it will be broken down to volatile fatty acids, which are three. One is what we call acetic acid. I'm giving you the three types of volatile fatty acids. So we have one which is acetic acid. Number two is what we call butyric acid. We have the butyric acid. And then number three is what we call propionic acid. So we have acetic acid, butyric acid, and propionic what? Acid. Now, in excess, wakati mahindi sasa imekuwa mingi, unajua ile ng'ombe tu ameenda kukula mahindi, in enough amount, tutapata volatile fatty acids, which are very important. But now, ng'ombe akikula in excess, it will lead to production of what we call lactic acid. So tumeelewa the acids, the four acids ndio, the three are very important, but one now which is produced in excess is called lactic acid. Now, what normally happens when lactic acid is produced? Aya, wacha tuongelee ile ilikuwa mzuri kwanza. So when carbohydrate is broken down to volatile fatty acids, we get acetic and butyric acid. The two, acetic and butyric acid, are very important for milk production. Synthesis of milk. Acetic and butyric acid helps in the synthesis of what? Milk. And then number three, which was propionic acid, is a precursor of glucose. And when we say precursor of glucose, it means what? It helps in production of energy. Sinivo. So it means, therefore, that for these volatile fatty acids, tulikuwa tunaongelea mambo na production ya maziwa. So nimeongelea fatty acids mara 4. Kani ndio muhimu sasa kwa production ya maziwa? Acetic and what? And butyric acid. Very good. And then the other one, which is propionic, will be very important kwa ndama. Because kwa ndama tunataka grow. Sindio? So we need a lot of energy. So for ndama, the very important one is propionic acid. For mambo ya kwa lactating cow, the most important one is acetic and butyric acid. Now, in excess, we get lactic acid. Lactic acid now is harmful because one, it will lead to production, it will lead to killing of the bacteria. inaua ile bacteria iko kwa tumbo. Lactic acid are very dangerous because inaua ile bacteria sasa iko kwa tumbo. And because imeua ile bacteria kwa tumbo, what happens when a bacteria dies? Ni nini inafanyika? It will release what we call toxins. Si ni kweli? So these toxins now, the toxins that will be produced as a nini after bacteria amekufa will go directly to cause laminitis, because it will now affect the corium of the claw of what? Of the hoof of the cow. So the toxins that is produced when bacteria dies is what it makes, what creates the issue of what? Laminitis. I think nikishaongea hivyo nimemaliza hii slide. Si ndivyo? Because we are just told these volatile fatty acids are used as energy source by cattle. So the one that is used for energy is which one? The propionic what? Acid. The primary volatile fatty acid for cattle are acetic. Nimeongelea hiyo, acetic, propionic acid and butyric acid. Now, acetic acid and then acetic acid, I think there is something with this thing. So the acetic acid and butyric acid are used for milk synthesis in the mammary gland of a lactating cow, while propionic acid is used for glucose. So as I've said, propionic acid is the precursor for glucose for production of energy. And then glucose is the primary precursor for disaccharide lactose. That's basically what I've just said. An increase in concentration of lactose results in influx of water in the mammary gland, resulting in the milk yield. So the rest, ile nimeongelea ni ile ilikuwa ya maana sana. Now, we have this one, the rest. And I've talked of the minerals. We said minerals, they are divided into two. We have one. We have macro nutrients and micronutrients. And all of them are important. But then, because we are talking of milk production, that means some will be more of use in milk production than the rest. So for our case, the macronutrients, we have what? We have calcium and phosphorus. So ukitafutanga chumvi ile ya maziwa, kama kuna kampuni ya chumvi ya maziwa watatuambia, when you are formulating, you have to make sure that you have a lot of calcium and phosphorus, because calcium helps in the in making of that milk. And then we have phosphorus. And then for micro elements, these are metal elements which are also as essential as they are. For example, we have zinc, we have copper, we have cobalt, we have selenium. Those are some of the things that must be present in a mineral. So, you all know the importance of copper. Wangapi wameona ng'ombe? Okay. The Holstein cow, anakuanga na color gani? The black and white, ndio? So the black color pigmentation of a cow, copper is responsible for it. Copper. So when there is deficiency of copper, ng'ombe ndio unaona ameturn brown. Mumeonanga vitu kama hiyo? Unapata mkulima anakuambia huyu ng'ombe wangu alikuwa mweusi nikimleta sana, lakini saa hii amekuwa nini brown. That cow has a deficiency of what? Copper. So that means when you are deworming, unajua kitu tunakimbilianga sana hii ni vitamins, ndio? Unachapa metaphors, unachapa nini? Vitamins, ndio? Not bearing in mind that what this cow is lacking is copper. So that means even if you are giving a metabolic stimulants, ama vitamins, you should also provide copper. That means when you are deworming, usideworm tu na dawa yeyote. Angalia yule dawa iko na copper ndani. So that ukiua minyoo, unafanya nini? Unampea ng'ombe copper. So utapata after 3 weeks, mkulima anakupigia simu anakuambia, daktari bwana, ile service ulifanyia ng'ombe yangu iko sawa bwana, naona hata ngozi ameanza kurudi. Because ulichua hii shida ni copper, and so you must provide. So you look for a dewormer yenye iko na copper as a trace element in it. Sawa sawa. Issue of selenium. Selenium helps in mambo na immunity, resistant to diseases. We have zinc. Zinc is very important in stabilizing the stomach of a cow. Zinc is very important kustopisha diarrhea. ORS ya watoto. Ile ORS ya watoto wanapewa wakiwa wadogo. Iko na zinc sulfate. Zinc sulfate, which is a very important molecule. So for this case, for microelements also, look for something iko na zinc ndani. So wakati una deworm ng'ombe yenye iko na diarrhea, ukiona mkulima amekwambia ng'ombe yangu ameanza kuhara tangu last week, so unamwambia hii ni minyoo, wacha tupe dawa ya minyoo. Tafuta dawa ya minyoo yenye iko na nini ndani? Yenye iko na nini? Zinc. So that ukiua minyoo, zinc itafanya kazi yako ya kustopisha diarrhea. So after 1 week, mkulima anakuambia daktari, bwana, dawa yako iko. By the way, unajua ukienda farm ya farm, what normally comes to your mind? Ukienda kutipu ng'ombe, alafu after 3-4 days or 1 week, uone simu ya mkulima. Na alikuwa amekulipa. What comes to your mind? Hiyo ndio call unapata madaktari wengi wanalenga because they are waiting for a bad news, ndio? It's very rare kwa wakulima akupigie simu akwambie, bana, ile dawa yako ilikuwa mzuri. So ukiona simu unasema, ile ng'ombe imesafiri mahali. Sina kwanga hivyo. But it's always good. I always tell farmers, even if wakati daktari amekufanyia kazi, also learn to give positive response. Sina ukweli? Yes, because it encouraged me. Najua, kumbe nilifanya kazi na ukirudi hiyo farm siku nyingine, hata ile pesa utaitisha utapewa. Unamwambia, unajua ile siku ile dawa nilitumia, niliona tu ng'ombe ilikuwa ina nini, lakini hii dawa ni expensive. So when you ukiongeza 200 hapo juu utapewa because of your service. So don't only use, usikuwa unatumia tu dawa yenye naua minyoo. Look for dawa iko na nini, trace elements. And then vitamins. Vitamins are also very important. And we've talked of vitamins that are water soluble and also that are what? Lipid soluble. The most important one, the lipid soluble. This is the very important. And this comprises of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. We normally use abbreviation ADEC. That is fat soluble, which is very important for a cow. So when you are administering a metabolic stimulant, when you are administering vitamins, angalia ile vitamins iko na nini? The 3. And then we have fats. Fats tulisema ni mafuta. So fats are very important. Fats are very important. One, in increasing the quality of milk. Unajua maziwa mazito ndio wanasemanga, hiyo ndio maziwa nzuri, si ndio? So fats are very essential. And remember, now, this brings me to a case, even as we go to the next slide. I think we are going to... Hii slides ilikuja mbele ya ingine. Yeah. Tukienda hapo. Wakati ng'ombe hachasa, akona mimba ya 7-8 months. Anakuanga namna gani? Sana kuanga amejaza sana. After kusaa hivi tu, production yake ameanza na 8 liters per day. Within 1 week, mkulima anakuambia, ng'ombe yangu kwanza amekata maziwa. From 8 liters hai bwana inanipea 3 liters bwana. Number 2, huyo ng'ombe mwenye alikuwa na mwili kubwa ameanza kufanya nini? Amekonda. What normally happens? Yeah? So what normally happens is, remember, when a cow is in calf, it has a lot of fats. Tunaongelea mafuta. So it has a lot of fats. Now, after calving down, the cow energy demand in a shoot. Sinivo, the calcium and energy demand inafanya nini? Wakati ucha provide enough calcium, ng'ombe anafanya nini? Analala chini. Milk fever. Si ni ukweli? Wakati ucha provide enough energy, ng'ombe atafanya nini? Atakonda. Ni nini inafanya ng'ombe anakonda? Yes.
During feeding, when you feed your cow with carbohydrates, they are converted into fatty acid, and most of them are stored for future use. So wakati huyo ng'ombe amenona wakati ako na mimba, that means amestore a lot of fats. Wakati ana calve, mwili inahitaji a lot of energy. So if we don't give enough energy feeds, mwili inaanza kujiconsume. So the body starts to consume the stored fats. That's why anaanza kukonda.
What normally happens is when a cow is steamed, when you steam a cow, it normally puts a lot of fat reserves in preparation for calving. Now, when a cow calves down, remember the energy demand inaenda juu. The calcium demand also inaenda juu. That is why you provide ile masiwa, ile chumvi ya masiwa, because iko na calcium na a lot of phosphorus. But that is not enough, because the calcium demand may double up. So what you do, you also provide oral calcium for that matter, ndio? Usingoje tu ng'ombe alale chini ndio unapea oral calcium. You give that cow oral calcium immediately after calving, so that you replace you replenish that cow with enough calcium. So you give oral calcium for 3 days. For 3 days. Number 2, now that will now cater for calcium. But for now, for fats, remember, when a cow calves down, energy demand inaenda juu. And because the energy demand supersedes the energy supply, what will happen is, kwa sababu ile chakula unapatia ng'ombe haitoshi kumpea ile nguvu anahitaji, ng'ombe atajitafutia. Na atajitafutia namba gani? Alikuwa ameweka ile mafuta for that matter. So anaanza kuchukula in a nutshell. Ni kama ng'ombe anaanza kuchukula. The cow is using the body reserves. Anaanza kutumia ile mafuta yake. He is now converting the fats to what? Energy. And when a cow does that, it will lead to a condition known as ketosis. Very good. Ukiona ng'ombe tu amekonda, hiyo ni ketosis. Ishaingia. You know ketosis, ainanga clinical nini ile ati temperature nini. Unaona tu cow is normal. But anaendelea kukonda. That means the cow is converting the fats kwa mwili yake into energy. And by converting these fats, it will lead to production of what we call ketone bodies. So unapata ng'ombe akipewa hata chenge, ananusa tu alafu anaenda. Ukienda kusikia ile harufu inatoka kwa mdomo yake, wanasemanga inakuanga sauti ya nini? Ya pombe, si ndio? Sasa kama pastors kama sisi hatujui inakaa namna gani, but it's always an offensive. It's always an offensive what smell. Ukienda, si ndio? Or is it sweet smell? Oh, so what are you trying to say? Yeah, it is like that actually. You know, I wanted to hear it from the host mouth, ndio? So okay, that's just by the way. So we are saying ketosis is a condition where a cow loses body weight, milk production inakuja chini, and also in extreme condition, huyo ng'ombe atalala chini. Tunaelewana? So that is where now fats come in. So ng'ombe wako akikuwa na mimba kama amepakisha wiki 2, you give what we call white energy. White energy imetengenezwa na mafuta. So hii mafuta wakati ng'ombe una steam ng'ombe, hii mafuta inakaa kwa mwili yake. So that huyu ng'ombe akisaa, instead ya kutumia ya mwili yake, atatumia ya nini? Ya white energy. So the white energy will help in maintaining the body condition of the cow. And also, unajua sasa ng'ombe akimaintain body yake, that means hata maziwa atafanya nini? Ata maintain. Na akimaintain body na production, that means that cow will have an extra energy to do what? For reproduction. That means that cow will come on heat as early as 60 days. Very good. Ukimaintain tu hiyo mwili ya ng'ombe, atakuja on heat. Lakini ukingoja aende negative energy, my friend, hiyo shimo inamalizanga mwaka moja kuchasa, ikuje zero kwanza. And then sasa ikikuja zero, ng'ombe sasa amejimaintain. Then sasa ubushi ya production. Unajua ya reproduction is the last priority. Ati ng'ombe akupe ndama na achapata ya mwili yake, achapata ya maziwa, reproduction inakuwa ya mwisho. That is why unapata ng'ombe anazaa na anaenda miaka ngapi? 2 bila kuitisha nini? Dume. Because alikuwa ameingia shimo ya nini? Negative energy balance. Sawa sawa. Now, here we have a freshly calved cow. We want now to look at what we call a lactation cycle of a cow. When we talk of a lactation cycle of a cow, lactation cycle inaenda for 360 days. But active lactation inakuanga 305 days. Sijui kama tumeelewana. The lactation cycle is 360 days. Tunaelewana? Lakini lactation period or the active lactation, it will last for 305 days. Now, the remaining 60 days inatoka wapi? The remaining 60 days inaenda steaming. Wakati una dry the cow, it is part of the lactation cycle. Because of what? You are preparing that cow for the next active lactation phase. So, we are saying, this is just an overview of a cow. As you can see, it's as good as old CRI, semen, and all that. And then, what we are saying is, these are the phases of lactation. We have almost 6 phases. Phase 1 and phase 2, they are steaming, the dry cow. So phase 1 is, remember, we have how many days of drying a cow? 60 days, ndio? The 7th and the 8th month, ndio? So phase 1 is far off dry cows period that ends 30 days after dry off. So in phase 1. And then we have phase 2. This one phase 1 is always like 7 to 8 months. And then phase 2 inakuanga 8 months to 9 months. That means after hapo ng'ombe anazaa. Sawa sawa. And then we have after ng'ombe amezaa sasa, it will now be divided into 3 phases. The first lactation phase, which is always maybe day 1 to day 40 or day 21, but in most cases inaenda mpaka day 40, that is 2 months. And then we have the big milk. Wakati ng'ombe amezaa, anafaa kupik. Yani maziwa, the maximum production ya maziwa inafaa ikuwe mwezi gani? Ya kwanza, mwezi wa kwanza? No. Mwezi wa pili? No. Inafaa ikuwe mwezi wa 3. Because now the cow atakuwa amerudisha mwili yake vizuri, utakuwa umemanage mambo na feeding vizuri. So the milk picking phase inafaa ikuwe day 90. DIM. DIM means day in milk. So we have phase 3, which is day 1 to 21. Phase 4, which is 14 to 90 days, but we normally use the last day, that is 90. And then phase 5, which is a period between 90 to 200 days. Maziwa sasa inaanza kurudi chini. Si unajua inaenda kama mlima hivi mpaka 90. Mbona inaanza kurudi from 90? We assume that the cow has conceived. Unajua tunasema sasa ng'ombe alipata mimba on day 60, ndio? Na ng'ombe akishapata mimba on day 60, we'll have now the hormones for pregnancy coming in, ndio? Which are always antagonist of the hormones that helps in milk production. So ukiona hii ya mimba inaanza kwenda juu because ng'ombe ameshashika mimba, so the hormones for pregnancy that will help in maintenance of pregnancy, the GnRH and all that. Wakati inaenda juu, hii ingine ya maziwa inaenda nini? Chini. The prolactin and the oxytocin itaenda chini, and therefore milk production itafanya nini? Itaenda chini. And then phase 6, which is now the pigtail, that is 200 to 300 days. Hapo sasa ndio unaanza kudry ng'ombe because sasa the pregnancy is maturing and it's speaking. So the transition period, when we talk of the transition, what do we mean? The word transition means jumping over to another stage. Sindio? A transition. So when we talk of transition cow, a transition cow is a cow that was dry or that was under steaming, and then in the lactation. That transition is very, very important. So the management of a cow in transition is very important. So first we talk of the phase 1, ile ya kudry. Why do we dry over cow? Unapatanga wakulima wengine wanakuambia, huyu ng'ombe wangu amepakisha miezi 2 kuzaa, lakini maziwa ni kama anaongeza. Sijui kama umepata such cases. Alafu mkulima anakuambia, what should I do? Bado niendelee kukamua ama nifanye namna gani? But now because it is the cow is heading to to calving, the farmer should stop milking regardless, because akiendelea kukamua unajua maziwa inaenda na calcium, the cow will end up in milk fever. Number 2, huyo ng'ombe akiendelea kukamua, that means the cow will have very little time to prepare for the next calving, and you will find that wale ndama watazaliwa after hapo are very weak because the cow did not get enough time to prepare for that calving. Sawa sawa. So we are saying transition period is very important, and when we are doing transition, this is what we target. Ng'ombe amekuwa akitoa maziwa mingi, lakini we want to cut it off. So when you want to cut it off, there should be this thing called involution of mammary gland. Involution, the regression inafaa unajua ifai kukua kubwa sana hapo kwanza, inafaa kuregress ndio asitoe tena maziwa. So the regression or the involution of the mammary gland. And then we have what we call sufficient nutrients to the conceptors. So when you steam a cow, when you dry off a cow, you start steaming a cow by providing necessary nutrients for the conceptors. We also have the body score ya ng'ombe anaanza kukua kubwa. And then we are also putting into consideration that the calf that will be born should have enough immunity, and therefore you should give a cow time to prepare for that. And then we have to stimulate rumen microflora and rumen papillae, because basically steaming ni kuongezea chakula, kuongezea nini, that means digestion should also be high. So we should have enough microflora. We have to minimize metabolic disorders. Normally, wale ng'ombe wako kwa steaming ndio wanapatanga sana laminitis. Are you aware? And especially fast calvers. Ng'ombe tu akiingia steaming ndio unapata anaanza kulimp because of the issues of concentrates yenye inaenda juu. Najua mkulima atasema wacha niongeze chenge sasa kwa huyu ng'ombe chuana sana next week. So ukiongeza a lot of concentrates, ukiongeza a lot of carbohydrates, you will have excessive production of the acids. So utapata kuna lactic acid itaproduciwa, and then the cow will have what we call rumen acidosis. So we want to minimize that. And then we have reduced udder edema, especially in fast calvers. Rumen, what do you call udder edema inakuanga nini? Ila anafura. Yeah? Baka unapata wengine hata wanaweka kiwele mpaka kwa shingo. Simuona vitu kama hizo, especially kwa fast calvers. So we want to minimize that so that we don't have issues to do with mammary gland cases. So what we are targeting when we say KPIs, so we want to reduce these metabolic conditions. One is what we call milk fever. What we are targeting when we are steaming a cow is we want to minimize the milk fever cases as much as that percentage. We also have hypocalcemia. Huh? Yes, hypocalcemia, which is almost the same thing with the milk fever. We have the primary ketosis. Ketosis nimesema, ile ng'ombe anasa, alafu anafanya nini? Anakonda, because of negative energy balance, because of NEP. And then we have the cases of laminitis. Because we are steaming a cow, we tend to increase the concentrate. And by increasing this concentrate, we will have excessive amount that will lead to production of lactic acid and therefore laminitis cases. So we also want to reduce that one. And then we have the displaced apomesum. Displaced apomesum. Apomesum inafaa ikuwe chini ya tumbo, si ndio? But when it is filled with gas, inafanya nini? Inakuja juu. That is what we call displaced apomesum. Okay. Recommendation for close-up ratio. We have to restrict the usage of calcium. Or basically, what we are saying in this slide is, we want for a cow that has calved down, for a lactating cow, we should have more calcium than sodium and the other nutrients coming up. So we have a product called Supercal. You will still see that one. Supercal is for the production of calcium and also energy. It has some energy in it. Okay, feeding dairy cows. Feeding dairy cows. So when we are feeding dairy cows, remember we talked of 6 phases. So tumemaliza phase 1 and phase 2. That is steaming. Now when a cow calves, early lactation, day 1 to day 7, wakati ng'ombe tu amezaa, ile wiki ya kwanza anakupea nini? Colostrum. So wiki ya kwanza ni colostrum. Na tumesema colostrum ni andama. Now, in early lactation, ng'ombe anapata shida mingi. Ya kwanza, kama ana enough calcium, analala chini, milk fever. So what did I say? Nilisema calcium should be provided when a cow calves down. Not when, not before. You use it post-calving, not pre. Because if you provide calcium to a cow, kama achasa, what will happen? What normally happens, there is what we call, si ng'ombe wanajitengenezea calcium by mobilizing the bones, ndio? When you provide, unajua kuna wakulima wengi wanakuanga na shida sana. He has been providing the dry cow minerals for that period, the 2 months. Lakini kwa bahati mbaya hiyo chumvi ikaisha. Wakati ng'ombe amebakisha wiki moja. Wiki moja ng'ombe atakuwa amejaza kiwele. Si ni ukweli? Because you don't know when the cow will calve down. And therefore mkulima atasema, si nimeona huyu ng'ombe ni kama ameweka maziwa. Wacha niende nilete sasa ile ya maziwa. Yes. So anaenda sasa kuleta ile chumvi ya maziwa. Milk, the what? Mnajua hiyo chumvi, si ndio? Yes, ile ya maziwa. High phosphorus, high calcium. Anasema huyu ng'ombe amepakisha wiki moja. Wacha aanze hii. Anaanzisha. Ng'ombe tu akisaa hivi, huyo ng'ombe atalala chini. The reason? Ng'ombe atakuwa amezoea ile ya kupewa. So it will negatively impact on ile calcium mobilization from the bones. It will negatively impact on that. And therefore, it means when a cow calves and the calcium demand is very high, na ng'ombe tu amezoea ya kupewa, what will happen? Atalala chini because ana enough calcium in the body reserve. So that's why I'm saying calcium is only supplemented after calving. Sawa sawa. So that is what we are saying. So because we want to cap the issue of hypocalcemia and milk fever, you use Supercal for that matter. And then we have another issue that will come in is now the negative energy balance. Negative energy balance. Ng'ombe anazaa, and because of the energy demand, which supersedes the energy supply or the energy that you are providing, what will happen? The cow will go into negative energy balance. Na akienda negative energy balance, kuirudisha ni ngumu sana. So what we are saying is, for a cow after calving, you give that cow what we call ketonex. Okay, this is a glucose precursor. Kuna ile hata wamama wakienda hospitali wakizaa tu wanadungiwa ile maji, na hiyo si maji, si ndio? They are always glucose, si ndio? Because they want to balance they want to give energy and the electrolytes necessary for kuirudisha mwili, sawa? So for cows also, we also have glucose. We also have glucose that should be given between day 1 and day 7. That is called propylene glycol. This propylene glycol, we have it in the name of ketonex. So ketonex comes from the word ketosis. So we are preventing cow from going into ketosis. So ukiona ng'ombe amezaa, it's always better to prevent than to what? To cure. So unapea ketonex half a liter hivyo. But ukiona tena ng'ombe amekonda, anza na ketonex kuirudisha kwanza ng'ombe ikuje equilibrium. And then ng'ombe tena, kuna wale ng'ombe wakati wa kiangazi wanalala chini, mpaka mnaita mtu anakuja kununua na 1,000 na ni ng'ombe mkubwa sana, atiokoa use this one ketonex, amusha huyo ng'ombe, because what is lacking and what I have seen with pets, ng'ombe tu mwenye amelala chini ni calcium. We always start with calcium or gluconate, which is okay, but then ukiona umepea calcium ng'ombe na amki, inamaanisha it has enough calcium, but now what is lacking is what? Energy. So ukipea ng'ombe hata kama ni milk fever ama nini, pea na ketonex, you will get very wonderful results because of hiyo nguvu, na inakuanga instant because hii ni glucose. Ni kama ile ya kudungiwa hospitali, lakini kwa ng'ombe ni nini? Naenda na nini. Now we have now this another product called white energy. White energy is we provide fats for the cow, so that instead for the cow utilizing fats after calving, it can use this one as the supplement. Now you remember phase 1 and the different phases. So in phase 1, milk production increases more rapidly than feed intake. We are now in active lactation. Wachana na ile steaming. So when a cow calves down, milk production increases more rapidly. Yani maziwa inaongezeka more rapidly than feed intake, with energy demand being very high because of the increase in milk production, and therefore because of the energy. Now mobilization and use of body reserves, yes, ile yako sasa. So mobilization and use of body reserves, that is fats, protein, and muscles, and even the calcium and phosphorus from the bones are okay, and there is loss in weight. So remember, when a cow, because of the energy demand, which is very high, it will now start to mobilize this one, the body reserves, and that is what makes a cow now to lose weight. However, energy is most limiting for this factor, because we've said the milk production is in a supersede the energy index through feed. So the LD and nutrition of the cow during this phase is very critical. So it's very critical, and we are saying we should provide this for maximum production. Too much weight loss. Ng'ombe akilose a lot of weight, it's very detrimental, especially for the health of the cow and also reproductive performance. That is why nilikuambia huyo ng'ombe mwenye amekonda hawezi kuja on hit, hata ufanyie nini, hata usynchronize. I've seen vets trying to synchronize a cow mwenye amekataa, ameambiwa tu na mkulima, huyu ng'ombe achashika mimba for 2 years. So unamwambia we have another way of doing that. So you go day 0, day 7, day 9, safi. Ng'ombe pia unajua huyo ng'ombe atatulia, so utasema kama ni 21 days na mkulima acha Nicole, what will happen? Unafikiria imeshika mimba, si ndio? After 7 months mkulima akingojea maziwa, ndio ng'ombe sasa anakuja on hit. Si tumekuwa na such cases? So ng'ombe anakuja on hit bwana, wakati mkulima anangoja maziwa. So unajua he will be very disappointed with you. So the first thing that you should know before even synchronizing a cow is the health of that cow. Kama huyo ng'ombe body weight yake unaona tu huyu ni ng'ombe amekonda, huyo si ng'ombe wa kusynchronize. Kwanza deal with the nutrition part. Bring that cow from negative energy balance to equilibrium. And then excessive concentrates, ile tulisema, leads to digestive disturbance and production of lactic acid, and therefore laminitis and low milk production. And then nutrients with high fat are used instead. Hiyo ndio nimesema sasa. So that we prevent these issues of excessive concentrate. Unaona, tulisema ng'ombe atatumia mafuta yake kutoa energy, si ndio? So what you can do as a vet or a farmer is you use a supplement yenye iko na mafuta, so that instead ya huyo ng'ombe kutumia mafuta yake atumie mafuta ya supplement, and then atakuwa na maintain body weight yake. So for this case we have to provide high fat nutrients or supplement, so that we prevent this cow from mobilizing its own fats. So if the cow is underfed, during this stage, milk production cannot recover even when the balance ratio are fed at a later stage. Kama ng'ombe acha recover within the 3 months ile ya kwanza, hata huyo ng'ombe ulishe vizuri, after 6 or 7 months huyo ng'ombe hata recover. So what we are saying is the first phase, that is day 1 to day 90, is very critical, and therefore this is what we should really look into. So cows in the later stages of lactation use energy more efficiently to restore body reserves than for milk synthesis. So that is what I said actually. Nilisema in terms of priorities, ng'ombe akipata energy ya, the first priority ni kujimaintain body reserve yake. Akiona hii imetosha, anakuongezea maziwa. Akiona tena imetosha, anakuja on hit. Tumeelewana? So that is in terms of priorities, and that is what basically this that bullet is saying. So phase 2, that is day 70 and day 150. And we assume when we are in phase 2, the cow should be what? Ng'ombe anafaa kuwa na mimba. Sawa sawa. So the energy here is eco-balance, big dry intake, so feeding to maintain peak production, and then the DMI is adequate to support milk production. So phase 3, that is 151 days to 305 days. Everything is stable now. Ng'ombe anakuja sasa amekuwa stable, because wiki ya kwanza the first phase ng'ombe anaingia negative energy, and then anakuja kupata enough, and then hapa sasa eco balance. So here positive energy balance. The other one was negative, but in this phase 3 the cow is now in positive energy balance. The feed index needs energy requirement meets. So the feed index meets the requirement for milk production. Milk production declines. Hapo sasa maziwa inaanza kupungua, because the cow is almost to the dry period. Are you getting? So the milk production inaanza kufanya nini? Kwenda chini. And then there is restoration of body reserves. Hapa ndio unapata wakulima wengi wanauza ng'ombe sasa. Wanapenda kuuza ng'ombe wakiwa na mimba ya mwezi wa 5 mpaka mwezi wa itashika pace, ndio, because ng'ombe ameweka weight. That is what we are saying, restoration of body reserves. And then phase 4, this is now the dry period, the last cycle. Ndio tumalize sasa cycle. This is what we call, so there is the cow continues to gain a lot of weight. Ng'ombe anaendelea kuweka a lot of weight. And then proper feeding of a cow during this stage will help realize the cow's potential during next lactation. So the more you feed the cow during this phase, the more potential that cow will produce milk in the next phase. So and also you minimize the health problems. Now, reduce concentrate intake to avoid overconditioning. Ikiwa ng'ombe ako na mimba ya mwezi wa 6 mpaka mwezi wa 9, you reduce the concentrate because we don't want this cow to come down with metabolic cases. And then bulky ravages to increase rumen size and more feed at maturation. So basically, all the phases, iko hapo sasa. This is the graphical representation. This is the summary of what we've been talking about. So lactation cycle curve inakuanga namna hiyo. So as you can see, we have 3 lines. We have for the body weight, which is total, and then we have for the milk production, and then we have for the feed intake. Now, as you can see, this is day 0. Wakati ng'ombe amezaa. You can see the body weight ilikuwa juu. Siko juu. But now, within this is the number of months. Within 3 months, unaona inakuja chini. So that means the cow is coming to negative energy balance. But then, for milk production, inianza hapa, but in a peak at around that month. So unaona, so wakati ng'ombe anakonda, anaendelea kukonda, maziwa inafaa kupanda, because now the peak inafaa ikuwe that month. And then the body weight we've talked about, the dry matter index, chakula, inafaa kuongezeka. So that is exactly what is happening with the phases. That is the graphical representation. Way forward. What can you say about that picture? Yeah? Hiyo ng'ombe amefanya nini? We've talked of conditions. Which condition is this cow suffering from? Yeah? We've talked of ketosis. We've talked of laminitis. Which other condition? Metabolic tumeongelea. I think the two measures. Ndio. So between laminitis and ketosis, huyu ng'ombe ako na shida gani? Ketosis. Si ndio? Tu anakaa normal lakini amekonda. This is now ketosis. So there is weight loss, marked weight loss. So the energy balance. So this is how the ketosis inakuja. So you see the red line is the energy. So you see the energy inakuja chini, inapita 0. Ikishapita 0 ndio tunaita sasa negative. Imeenda chini. And that is where ketosis comes in. And then we have the calving, we have the blue line. This is now the energy demand. So the energy demand ina shoot up. So mahali inaenda juu ndio mahali ng'ombe anaenda negative energy because atatumia mafuta yake. Are you seeing? And then the other one is the energy demand. So this is the energy demand. The energy balance is this one, imekuja negative. The energy demand, mahali imeanzia kwenda juu, ndio huyu ng'ombe anapata ketosis because atatumia mafuta yake. And then the feed index. So as you can see, mahali tena energy demand inaanzia, ndio the feed index inaenda juu. So major challenges, I think this is where we are winding up our discussion. And so the major challenges associated with these phases, the lactation phase, the challenges that we get from the lactation phase, one is ketosis. Sio mumeona? So tunakuwa na hiyo. There is also fatty liver disease. Sometimes unapata ng'ombe anaweka a lot of weight, anakuwa obese. That is a condition of fatty liver disease. We have displaced apomism because of the production of excessive gas. We have infertility and low milk yield. So in tukiharakisha tu, because I think in my discussion tumepita yote, si ndio? So we'll just be having maybe pictorials for that matter. So this is a ketosis case. As you can see, the cow looks normal, but the body weight imeenda chini, and that means also the production is also affected. So how do we manage ketosis? This is now the solution. The solution to ketosis. Ng'ombe amekonda, mkulima amekuita, anakuambia ng'ombe yangu akula. What are the sides of ketosis? Kukonda, namba 2 nimesema anakataa chakula. Anapewa dairy meal, ananusa, anaenda kando. So you go with this thing to your farm. You go with what you call ketonex. So ketonex is a propylene glycol. This is a glucose precursor. A glucose precursor. So ukiwa na ketosis cases, ng'ombe amekata maziwa, amekonda, kuna wale okoa pia, especially wakati wa kiangazi kama hii. Si kuna hiyo cases mingi sana. Enda na ketonex. Hiyo ndio kazi yake. So this is ketonex is a high concentration of glucose precursor and electrolytes are specifically formulated for rapid treatment of ketosis. Major active ingredient is propylene glycol, and it also has electrolytes in it. So sometimes unapata huyo ng'ombe ako na issue na some electrolytes. So we have a ketonex that will cater for that. We have also white energy. White energy. So sijui picha yake haijaonekana vizuri hapo, but I think white energy ilikuwa inakaa namna gani? Okay, tutapata hapa mbele. So basically, white energy, remember tuliongelea mafuta, si ndio? Tulisema hatutaki kupea chenge mingi ng'ombe wakati ako na mimba. It's better we use a fat supplement, so that instead ya huyu ng'ombe akizaa atumie mafuta yake, atatumia ya hiyo supplement. So you provide what we call white energy. So white energy inakaa chumvi, lakini ni mafuta yenye imeshagwa. So this white energy will provide the necessary energy when energy demands ikienda juu. Sawa sawa. Number 2, this white energy also because ni mafuta. Kuna wale ng'ombe wanakuwa na maziwa nyepesi. Si kuna hiyo issue? When you take milk to a cooperative or a society, unaambiwa umeongeza nini? Maji. Lakini uchaongeza, it is the genetic makeup of a cow. It has a low butter fat content. So you can correct by using white energy because ni mafuta. Ukipea 100 grams per day, inaongeza the butter fat content because ni mafuta. Sawa sawa. So this one also reduces probability of metabolic diseases such as rumen acidosis. Now, what are we saying? By using this white energy, that means you are using white energy instead of dairy, utapunguza dairy meal. So that means there will be no excess provision of carbohydrate. And because there is no excess carbohydrate, there will be low cases of rumen acidosis. Umeona? So utakuwa umepea ng'ombe energy. Number 2, umeprevent acidosis. So low incidences of lameness. Hiyo nimeongelea because instead ya kutumia carbohydrate umetumia white energy. Sawa sawa. But now it doesn't mean ati unatumia white energy unaacha sasa dairy meal. Hapana, utapunguza dairy meal. Kama huo ng'ombe yako anapewa 4 kilos ya dairy meal na umeongeza white energy, utapunguza hiyo dairy meal kuja around 3 kilos because the energy will be provided, the extra energy will be provided by the white energy. This one also will improve milk production and also fat percentage. I have said that one. It will also improve fertility because we've maintained the body condition of the cow. It means the cow will have extra energy to come on it. And then improve farm economy. Yes, it will improve on farm economy because I've said instead of using 4 kilos of dairy meal per day, you will be using what? 3 or 2 kilos. So you'll cut utakata hiyo. Okay, sorry. So that is a continuation of white energy. I think I've said everything about it. And what you do, you give 100 grams per day. 100 to 150 grams per day. But when you are steaming a cow, wakati ng'ombe amepakisha wiki mbili kuzaa, unaanza na 50 grams vijiko mbili ya white energy. So that ng'ombe akizaa, unampea ngapi? 4. Sawa sawa? For 1 month to 3. You remember the phases, ndio? So tulisema mahali ng'ombe anapata negative energy in phase 1. So you can use energy, white energy for that entire period. Phase 1, for 1 or 2 months. The first, then the second month, because that is when you need a lot of energy. Laminitis. This one, nimeongelea. I think I talked of how this one happens. We say that excessive carbohydrates, lactic acid, very good. Lactic acid. Jameni. So, excessive carbohydrate, production of lactic acid inaua bacteria. Si tulisema hivyo? It kills the rumen bacteria. The dead bacteria will provide toxins. These toxins will act on the corium of the hoof and cause laminitis. Laminitis is the inflammation of the lamina, which is the connective tissue between the hoof wall and what? And there's what we call claw bone or the petal bone. Yeah? So inakuanga a connective tissue. So that is laminitis. So kama mumelewa, we are done. Yeah? So that is it. It's a metabolic disorder. So wakati umepata laminitis case, fats. Wakati umepata laminitis case, wakati ng'ombe wamekula kwa nini ya ng'ombe ya mahindi nini akapata hii laminitis, usikimbie na antibiotics. This is a metabolic what? Disorder. So the primary cause ni nini? Eh? Yes, because it is a metabolic disorder, usikimbie na antibiotic, unaenda na a metabolic stimulant, because it is a metabolic what? Yes. So the first thing unafaa kutumia kwa laminitis, it's either metaphors, eh? You know hiyo dawa ya metabolic stimulants ndio, butaphors nini, but we have metaphors which has the issues that will help in treating laminitis. So wakati umepea sasa hiyo ndio ukuje sasa na antibiotic. So you start with the primary, which is metabolic stimulant, alafu ukuje sasa na antibiotic, because mguu sasa itakuwa imeoza, si ndio? Yeah. So basically that is what you are saying. So it affects the lamina of the claw, and then we have the major challenge is the nutrition. So this is a disease that is caused by the nutrition challenge. So you manage by using a metabolic stimulant. That is it, laminitis. So if you can see now the difference between this cow and the other one. Unaona mgongo yake? It is what? It is calf. That means the cow akona shida na nini? Na miguu yake. So this one is a ached back, which is a clinical symptom or a clinical sign of laminitis is hiyo. Unaona ng'ombe amefanya hivi sana na anaweka chini kichwa. That is a laminitis. Sawa sawa. So we have laminitis scale 1 to scale 5. Scale 1, scale 2 is almost normal. Ikifika sasa moderate, unapata ng'ombe sasa akiamuka tu anaweka chini kichwa, noting the head. And then in mild lameness, ng'ombe sasa anaanza kuonyesha the signs of lameness. The cow is favoring one limb, and then it has a lot of difficulties. This is now the chronic stage. So we have subclinical stage, clinical and chronic. So ikifika sasa mahali ng'ombe ako reluctant to move, that means the cow is now in chronic stage of laminitis. So that is what normally happens. And the best, what we normally do in prevention of such cases is hoof trimming. That one is what we know. So this is also a cow in in laminitis condition. So you can see the egg pack, and the cow looks like is reluctant to move. Is reluctant to move, or is the cow is making short strides when moving. So this is only the pathway for laminitis. The excessive carbohydrate. You can see we have the gram-negative bacteria, and then gram-positive bacteria, production of toxins, and then nivo. Sawa sawa. So that is also the same case. I think I've said everything about this on how the nutrition, affect comes in the case of laminitis. So we are saying excessive carbohydrate, lactic acid, and all that. So management, how do you manage such cases? So when you have a laminitis case, you manage by using what we call metaphors. So metaphors is a veterinary tonic and metabolic stimulant. That helps in prevention and treatment of deficiency of vitamin B12 and phosphorus in cattle, horse, swine, and poultry. The butaphosphan is an organic molecule consisting. When we say organic, it is not synthetic. The goodness with metaphors, the goodness with metaphors is that it is an organic. And when we say it is an organic, that means there will be no withdrawal period kwa maziwa. So ukitumia hii, because it is an organic molecule, there will be no withdrawal. So ukitumia unamwambia tu mkulima maziwa iko sawa, because this is an organic, rather it's not a synthetic. So it is used, indicated to treatment of metabolic disorders. So it can be used in these cases. So when you have a milk fever case, you can use metabolic stimulant, that is metaphors. When you have a hypomagnesemia, infertility treatment, tetany, and paresis, when you have the paralysis, the movement of the cow is altered, you can still use these metaphors. So that is the continuation of metaphors. We are saying for any cow that is depilated. When you say depilatation of a cow, it means the cow is what? Very weak. So debilitation by acute or chronic metabolic disorders. We have cases of anistrus, ng'ombe akuchi on heat, and because of the phosphorus in it, it will help that cow maybe to come on heat. So that is a plus on why you should use metaphors. So metaphylaxis of infertility, I think we've talked about that one. And then tonic cases of weakness. Wakati ng'ombe ako very weak, with tonic cases like maybe ng'ombe unaona anatetemeka, you can also use the same the same metaphors. The withdrawal ya maziwa, nil. Because why nil? Because it is an organic, not synthetic. So yeah, so this is the last slide. This is basically management of the metabolic disorders. So we have ketonex. Sio nimewambia kazi yake. This is a propylene glycol. This is a glucose precursor ya ng'ombe. So when you have ketosis cases, you use ketonex. White energy. This one will help in the when you have a negative energy balance cases. And I've said you use for steaming a cow so that you prevent a negative energy balance. We have supercal. This one, the supercal is super calcium. It is basically super calcium. So this one is a calcium supplement for cows, and it has energy. So you are supplementing not only calcium but also energy. And then we have Camboost. Camboost ni sasa ya mwisho. I think tulikuwa tumeruka hiyo. Yes, let me use 1 minute to explain this one. So Campus nilisema ni tablets. Campus tablets. So this Campus is very important. First, nilisema inasaidia rumen development. Development. I said Campus iko na what we call zinc sulfate. So when you have issues with diarrhea, hii ni kama ORS ya watoto. I think you have had cases where you have a cow with persistent diarrhea. Amepewa kaolin, aisikisi, ndio? Hiyo inamaanisha tumbo ya hiyo ng'ombe imekuwa smooth. The rumen papille imeng'ooka. So akikula chakula, there is no grip. Hakuna ile kitu inashikilia chakula because the rumen papille imefanya nini? Kung'ooka. And because Campus nilisema ni kama fertilizer. Inafanya rumen papille to regenerate. So because it will make rumen papille to regenerate, that means it can be used together with kaolin. Kaolin will help the stop the diarrhea. Ndio? Campus will help the rumen to regenerate the rumen papille, and within 2 weeks ng'ombe atakuwa ameacha kuhara kama amekuwa na persistent diarrhea, because ukitumia kaoli na tumbo imeng'ooka, nini itastopisha? Hakuna. We need that grip, so we use Campus. Sawa sawa. When you have calves with issues ya tumbo, ile feed indigestion, ile nilisema kuna tumbo kubwa, you use what? Campus. Sawa sawa. Ng'ombe mwenye amesaa because of an appetite, this one iko na kitu inaitwa cobalt sulfate. Cobalt is a supplement that will help in bringing up the appetite in cows. So hii Campus pia inasaidia kurutisha appetite kwa ng'ombe. That means this Campus can also be used with antibiotics, because unapata ng'ombe mwenye ako na ICF akuli, si akuli. So you can use also Campus kufanya huyo ng'ombe akuwe na nini? Amu ya kukula. So that is the benefit of using Campus. So I think that was the last slide, and because tulikuwa tumeruka hiyo Campus, I really wanted to emphasize on that. Thank you so much for the patience, and thank you for your time. So I think we only have 5 minutes remaining. In case there is a comment, in case there is a question, and in case you have something to add on, because we said this was a very comprehensive lesson, and we wanted to have our inputs so that at the end of this session, at least you'll go home knowing that when I have laminitis, I have to use this. When I have a case of negative energy balance, I have to use this. Because when a cow has metabolic issues, when a cow has negative energy balance, masiwa itaenda chini. And we were talking of how to improve masiwa by use of this feed. So, any question or any comment? Yes. I think, I think, okay, if you can come up with the question again. Iburu dear. Na tusikize wote so that at least tutachangia. This is a very interactive question, session. Yes.
The contribution of dry matter to the milk production.
Yes.
And how much is needed to an animal. And what in every stage. And then this grass called Pracaria, it has been promoted to be a high protein level grass, but when you keep it as hay, it's so dry and brittle, the consumption of the animal, I mean the consumption of the grass is a bit hard. How can you go over it?
Yes, we have I think an answer. You have an answer?
No, another question.
Another question.
Maybe you can combine them.
Okay, and I've said this interactive. So if you have an answer to a question that has been raised, Sindio? Yes.
Yes, we understand that cellulose takes time to be digested. How can one improve on that? Or do you have a catalyst that can improve on cellulose so that a farmer can realize higher production of milk? Thank you.
Acha tukue na
my question goes to an animal which has been down, and at the end of the day maybe it dies. How do you reduce sand or soil taken by the animal in the rumen? Because majority of the animals, at times you do postmortems, you find the animal has been down for long, there are a lot of sand in the rumen. How do you reduce it?
ya mwisho sijui kama nilipata vizuri. The amount of sand kwa tumbo. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Daktari, for your presentation. A very healthy one. And my comment, how I wish that the presentations on the wall be clear so that we can take those notes.
Yeah, sure.
But my question is, now that we have talked about when the calf is born, it is not complete in the ruminal the contents.
Yeah.
When do you introduce the ravages or the dry matter to the calf? And at times when you observe, a calf can take water, and at the end of the day, micturition has blood. Can you explain on that? And then lastly, I caught somebody, or you can now share with this. Somebody was telling me that when a calf is born, if you want to improve on the same development of the rumen, you can as much introduce yogurt. It is a yogurt from the supermarket. Do you have an idea of the same so that you can explain further on that? And what does it carry?
Okay. Okay. So we have 4 questions, and I think my time is up. But then, I'll try to. A question. Yeah. Oh, you want to answer? Or to add something?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Oliver Ituaro from Osho Chemical. I would like to answer the question on dry matter intake of a dairy cow. That's what is asked, Sindio? Yeah. Normally, an animal will take around 2.5 to 4.5 of its body weight dry matter. So if a cow has, for example, 400 kg, you can go back to our calculator, and it's at the production stage. Working with the 4.5% of the body weight, we can do the 4.5% of 400 kg. What do we get? %4.5% of 400 kg. That's for a dairy cow that is in production.
100.
What's that? Yes? 4.5% of 400 kg. You get? Percent. 18. So you see, that one gives you an indicator of how much you need to do of dry matter. Remember, grass is measured on amount of dry matter plus the water and all the other solubles that are in it. In this calculation, I'm talking about the dry matter. So when we are breaking down on a particular feed like Napier, we also calculate depending on the dry matter that is in that group of feeder or fodder. So I've worked out on the dry matter required for that animal. I don't know if I've answered that question. It is 2.5 to 4% or 4.5% of the body weight. Simply put. That's the part of dry matter. So that's what I wanted to answer.
Thank you so much, Daktari.
About the calf, I think the Daktari, you will need to be slightly patient. We will talk about the calf and you will be answered. So you don't need to. Yeah.
Actually, that is what I wanted to answer, because I think that we have a topic on calf management, sindio? But because we were talking of nutrition, you wanted, do you have, okay, okay, there was a question, ile ng'ombe amelala sana, and then when you do a postmortem, you find a lot of sand. Me, have never encountered. Eh? You want to answer? Okay.
Okay, my name is Edwin. I think ile swali ameuliza ya ng'ombe kukaa chini sana. Most of these animals wakiwa chini, they tend to wanalamba mchanga.
The picket disease,
I think
what do you call that?
I think ni deficiency ya minerals.
The bikers ndio. Yeah.
I think kitu inafanya wakiwa hapo chini wanalamba mchanga ni deficiency ya minerals, the iron.
Okay.
Inafanya wanalamba mchanga. Pia akiwa na ECF, at the late stage utapata pia wanalamba mchanga.
So actually it's because of the mineral deficiency.
Yeah. Then to add on to add on what is the doctor has answered on dry matter. I think the question was, what is the importance of feeding dry matter? Not what amount should we feed on dry matter. What's the importance of feeding dry matter?
I think he answered. Like, Daktari, okay, wanakusikiza.
I continue. In ruminant, as we understand, their mode of generating what you call the blocks of nutrition. That is we normally use the human part as metabolism. Sindio? In ruminants, we do the reverse. Sindio? Catabolism. So it is those dry matter that is in the rumen broken down to give the volatile acids, where Dr. was talking about the volatile acid and their importance. So that is the building blocks for the energy Dr. was talking about, the dry matter. The importance of dry matter, yes.
Okay, Dr. I think because my moderator amesimama and I have some online question plus yake, I'll give, after this session, I'll give out my number, so that whatever we've discussed, we can engage further. Sindio? So there is a question on campus there. Okay, what was your question? First of all, there was a question on yogurt. I think the question on yogurt is the issue of fermentation. What yogurt has some bacteria in it. That's Sindio. And we say for campus, it's just like that yogurt in a nutshell, because it has the bacteria, the rumen, the normal microflora that helps in digestion. So I think that is the principle behind the use of yogurt. But I really don't encourage, because one, you don't know the toxic level for that matter, because this is something, yogurt has been fermented, but you don't know the toxic level for the case of the calves. But at least for campus, it's something that has been formulated for the same. And then I have some online questions. What stage of calf do you introduce campus? At what stage of the calf? So you introduce campus as early as first week, because after colostrum, ndama akishaanza kumaliza colostrum, anaanza kutafuta the solid feed, sindio? So mumeona hivyo. And by doing so, that means you should boost its digestion by starting to supplement with what? Campus. So as early as first week, but now it is always good to give campus supplement every 1 month. Every 1 month. You give 4 tablets every 1 month, because 1 dose inakuanga na 4 tablets. Can you use campus on canine and feline? Eh? Okay, what I can say is yes, it can be used, especially when you have metabolic issues. But it is majorly used for what? Yes, for ruminants. Because we are saying ruminants, the rumen has got the finger-like projection, and that is what we want to boost, the development of the rumen papillae, and also to increase on the population of bacteria. Do you have compost in liquid form? And the answer is no, unless ile yogurt ya rafiki yangu. But for now we don't have. We only have compost tablets. So let me just share my number because the time is up and my moderator is here. So my number. Yeah? Oh, online question. Is there a relationship between distended belly in calves and high future production? I think this one, there is no, okay, what I can say is for rumen development, we've talked of having compost, but now there is no relationship between distended. I think distended, there's difference between a large volume capacity stomach and a distended one. Distended one tends to be a pathological. Sindio hivyo? Yani, ni issue ndama amepata. So it cannot be something which is something normal. So even if it is distended, the rumen capacity is still small. Maybe tumbo tu imekuwa kubwa juu ya hiyo machi. But now it doesn't translate to production because it is pathological for that matter. Sawa sawa. So let me share mine. So it has no relationship for this one. So unless it is ni kama watu wa online wako chonjo. So what I was saying about the distended stomach is that unless it is the genetic makeup of that cow to have that large stomach capacity, just like Holstein, it will then translate to higher production. But if it is pathological, ati imekuwa kubwa juu yako na minyo, ati amekuwa kubwa juu ya mambo na indigestion, haita translate to production. Sawa sawa. And then what are the problems when a bovine? What are the problems when a bovine has paper nails in the stomach? Oh, this is just hardware disease. Sindio? And when we have these things when the cow ingests these indigestible solid materials, of course it will very detrimental. It will be very detrimental to the health of the cow. So, one, it will lead to a disease called hardware disease. Sindio? That if in case of, if it is a nail or a sharp object, it will pass through the rumen to the where? Reticulum. Sindio? And then we will have an issue with TRP. And the condition can even lead to death. Leave alone the production. Of course, production itaenda chini because kama ng'ombe akona asingenge ama msumari kwa tumbo, akikula chakula, there is that pressure ya chakula inasukuma ile msumari, piece through the rumen wall, maybe to the underlying organs like the heart or lungs, and that can cause death. So I think that's what we know of hardware disease. Sindio? So my number is 0701 0701 304 282 0701 304 282. So we can always engage on the conditions we've talked about. We can always engage on the products that we've talked about, and after this, you can have time. You can check on the products that we talked about. Otherwise, thank you and may God bless you.
Can we clap for Dr. Adi?
Okay, this is the YouTube guy. So you can always get those information. We also have a YouTube channel. It's called, is it Atlantis? Yeah, Atlantis Life Science YouTube channel. Atlantis Life Science YouTube channel. You will always find a lot of teachings when you subscribe to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's clap for Dr. Adi. We want to take 15 minutes for tea. And we are humbly requesting that you observe time so that we can be able to live in good time. So let's pray for tea as we go down, as we go out to take a cup of tea. Let's give thanks. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you, we honor you, we adore you for your presence and time together with us. And we pray as we go to take a cup of tea and something that we shall invite, that you shall bless and sanctify them. A prayer of faith in Jesus' name. We are